Okay. All right, there we go. We are live. Everything looks good. Okay. Let me scoot up here a little bit closer to the microphone. All right. How is everybody doing today? Good to see you all. Let me adjust some things here. There we go. All right. Hopefully it is live. I think I got the notification for it. Let me check really quickly. Yep. Okay. So I'm so sorry for all of the weird times and everything that I've had. It's just called life. And we are in a very busy season right now with the holidays and everything going on with that. So it's going to be a busy time over the next time, Mabel. It's going to be a very busy time over the next month or so. So also in January and February, my January and February is already filling up actually. With trips and things like that. So conferences, trips, and one of them is in Florida in January. So I will be very happy to leave. I'm already freezing to death here in Illinois. So I'll be very happy to leave and go to Florida and get some warmth for like 4 days. That'll be a nice break. But then in February, we're going to South Dakota or something, and that will not be warmer. That will be probably colder than here. So, but yep, already filling up. Okay, so today I just threw together this outline real quick. I don't know if I'll go very long. I always say that, but then I always just yap away. So we'll see what happens. I have a Walmart pickup order in just a little bit that I've got to get to. So I was going through a list of topics in the Gently Led Sisters group, just kind of looking for a topic that I thought maybe, you guys want to talk about. That is a good group. If you've not joined it on Facebook, it's the Gently Led Sisters group. It is a private group. You have to answer a few questions like, yes, I'm a woman. Yes, it's my desire to serve the Lord and all that. I'm a Christian to join because we're very specific, topic specific. It's all about being a godly wife, a godly mom, or even just a single girl who someday wants to be married, wants to have a family. So there's a lot of different advice in there. But I was going through looking at different topics, and this topic kept coming up about healthy communication. So I figured, I know it's probably stuff I've already gone over a million times. This coming March, I believe, it will have been 4, 7. I'm trying to think of how many years it's been since we started Gently Led Sisters group. Someone can go check for me. I think it's like in the show's description. I'm really curious now. I think Tommy was 16 and he will be 23. So I think we're going on maybe 7 years of the show going on. I've been doing it solo now for I've been doing it. Let's see. We started it March 10th, 2018. So yeah, in March, it will be 7 years since we started the show. And I started with a co-host. She was only co-hosting with me for about 9 months. And then, so for over 6 years, I've been running the show, having different guests on and stuff. Next year, I do definitely want to get more guests on. So if you have any suggestions, definitely. I know people have been asking for me to have Jane Kane back on. I do want to try to get her back on. If you have any suggestions, though, definitely leave it in the comments. But this subject comes up often, communication, and it's something that's talked about very often in our world. Maybe you grew up in an angry home and you don't know how to get your thoughts across in a calm way. Maybe you grew up in a home where you didn't confront anything. You swept things under the rug. You just ignored problems, different, things like that, or you never talk about them. I think communication is very important. So I wanted to talk about this today. I also noticed that in the topic suggestions, communication came up over and over and over again, whether that's communication with your kids, whether that's communication with your spouse, whether that's communication with your friends, different areas like that. So first off, here's some tips that I have for communication as a whole. Now, in my life, communication is very important. Obviously, I have this podcast, and it's so funny because I was thinking about this the other day. Even though I have a podcast, I'm not someone who regularly listens to podcasts very often. I'm not big even about listening to other influencers. I just don't really do it very often. Honestly, really the only podcasts that I listen to, are podcasts that have to do directly with, maybe this is just my personality, but directly with, religion or IFB specifically. Their podcasts to do, I will listen to a lot of like murder documentaries or true crime, I guess true crime documentaries. I like watching stuff like that. I like watching interrogations. I like, different, like, just actual documentaries. Those are kind of my preferred listening to. So, I don't typically listen to other women podcasters, which seems kind of funny since I guess I am technically a podcaster, but honestly, I drive myself nuts most of the time too, so I probably wouldn't even listen to myself if I was one of you. So, I know that's not a great commercial, but I continue on with this because I have been reached out to by other women that have said this is their thing. They like to listen to other podcasts, and they enjoy different tips and stuff that I can throw out. If it helps you, great. Remember, every home is different. I have to throw that disclaimer out there all the time because um, I actually get attacked quite often for having this podcast. So I have to really put that disclaimer out there. This is not your home. If I give you a tip that can help, that's great. But honestly, at the end of the day, do things the way that your husband likes it. So I have to throw that out there. But here are some tips for communication as a whole. This has helped me in my life. So going back to what I was saying, communication is very big in my life because I am a pastor's wife. I am put into a position often where women do come to me for advice on different things, especially the older I get and the more that they see the fruit of our ministry and the fruit of our home. And that's not said in a braggadocious way, that's said in a very matter of factly way. Because obviously, if you don't like the fruit of my home, if you don't like the way my kids are turning out, then don't come to me for advice on rearing children because you're probably, why would you take advice from someone where you don't like the fruit? So that's something I've done in my life. I've always looked at the fruit of something before I take that person's advice. And needless to say, I don't listen to podcasts very often, but I love going to ladies' retreats and I love soaking up the wisdom from the people that they ask to speak. So that being said, that's kind of, I guess I prefer more in-person type learning than just putting something on YouTube and listening to it. Plus, because I have the personality where I'm not going to take advice from someone where I have not seen the fruit, that's why I don't really listen to podcasts because I'm finding that more and more influencers, they have a completely different life behind closed doors. And if I don't personally know the podcaster, I'm not going to take advice from them. I take everything with a grain of salt that I hear on the internet when it's someone I don't know. So I guess that's kind of the root of why I don't really listen to many podcasts, I think, that have to do with like life application things. Same with preachers. I only like to listen to preachers and take the advice of those that I can see the fruit of their ministry. And that's why I will only recommend on this show people that I know personally and I have personally seen their fruit. So, a lot of podcasters, they live double lives. They can say one thing, but then something else is going on in their home that's completely different from the narrative. That's why when it comes down to child rearing advice, ask the kids. Ask the kids, ask the adult children, not little children, because it's very easy to have little children in subjection. Little children love you, they look up to you, all that stuff. The true fruit is shown once those kids become teenagers and then adults, and especially once they leave home. So that's why even when it comes to like the Duggar family, you have to look at the fruit of what they have produced. And whereas I think some of their kids are doing okay, some absolutely are not. And you have to wonder what happened, what went on in the home that you're not seeing. So for me, I prefer to listen to advice from godly families that I have seen firsthand and that I know. And that would be like the Angel family. They're about all I can think of. There's lots of IFB families that have raised really good kids. But anyways, here are some tips for communication as a whole. Be approachable. Don't be easily offendable. Don't make it where people have to walk around you on eggshells, where they feel like, oh no, I hurt her feelings again. Oh, I can't say that because she's very sensitive about it. I think most people know with me that I am pretty approachable, and it's kind of hard to offend me. Where were we? Oh, I know what it was. It was when I went out to eat with my friend in London. She was saying something to me, like tell me her opinion about something. And this is after Abby and Fiona had joined us. And she said something along the effects of, I don't want to offend you or something like that. And Fiona was just like, you really can't offend Cassandra. And that is kind of my personality. Maybe because I have had so many attacks leveled at me through the years, the last 7 years to be specific, where I've just learned to take everything with a grain of salt. And if that person doesn't know me, then that opinion doesn't really matter. But also, with people, I try to see where they're coming from. And that's another one of the tips, figure out where the other person is coming from. Are they speaking from a position of hurt? Have they had some hurt in their life? Are they speaking from a position of this is the way that they were raised? And that's why. I know another tip is be truthful. Don't lie. Be straightforward, be calm when faced with the problem, but then try to come up with a solution for that problem. And then learn about the different personality types. This has really helped me in my own life. Um, it really helps when you figure out the way that we tick. We all tick differently, right? We all have, some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts. I'm an extrovert, but I even have my limits when I've been putting myself out there in a social situation. Sometimes I like nothing better than to just go home and relax. So even though I am an extrovert, I can become worn out when I'm around people the whole day, talking the whole day. Especially if I am being asked for advice and I'm having to counsel someone, that really can wear me out emotionally. So but there's different personality types. There's introverts, there's extroverts, there's those who their life is an open book, and that's kind of how I am. And then there's others who they're a lot more private. So, we all have these different personality types. But what about communication with our children? I think one of the best things that you can do for your children is see each of them as unique. Not every child fits into a certain box. Every kid has a different personality. Every kid is either extroverted or introverted. Different kids need different things to thrive. Some kids can go all day without needing to take a break. Some kids get very tired very easily. So, you have to know what each kid can handle and see them as unique individuals. They're not all just going to fit into this little pre-made box that you have. That's one thing that I've definitely learned through having a lot of different children. I have 8 children. Every single one of them has such a unique personality. I will say, though, that there are some that resemble each other. But even then, like with Hannah, I feel like I'm raising Allie all over again. And Allie's hilarious. Just to tell you a story, last night, this just shows the different personalities. We smelled this like electrical fire smell. I have no idea what it was. I think I figured it out now. But the girls are texting me. I had already gone to bed, and obviously we just text. We're in the back part of the house. And they're texting me saying we smell a weird smell. So I get up and I'm like, yeah, there's a weird smell. What is that? So I figured out, I think it was the electrical heat that we have. I had cranked it up and I think it just had a weird smell. So I turned off the breaker for it. I turned it off. I told that was Lana's room. I said, you need to sleep on the couch tonight. I made sure the smoke detector was working. I put it in the hallway, made sure it was, tested it, everything. It was working. And I'm like, okay, nothing's hot, nothing smells weird. I think it was just the wall heater. I'm fine. I'm going to bed. Well, Chloe's just like, well, hope we don't all die. That was her reaction. Lana's first reaction was crying. We're all gonna die, because Lana instantly goes to tears. And then Allie was like, Mom, no. She's like, no, you need to go up into the attic and you need to figure out where it's coming from. I'm like, Allison, It's 10:30 at night. I'm not going to climb up into the attic and like see what's going on. It's freezing. I'm in bed. I'm in my pajamas, whatever. And she's like, "Great, mom. Now I won't be able to sleep until dawn because I have to make sure we're all okay." But that's Allie. And so knowing her, because she asked me, she's like, did you Google it? Because Allie goes to Google for everything. Like if she thinks she's dying, she Googles it, right? And I'm like, no. I said, I didn't Google it. I think it's fine though. And it was fine. We didn't die. Obviously, we're still here. But I never asked. But Allison probably stayed up feeling like she was protecting her entire family from a death from a fire that never happened. And we have not smelled the smell since I shut off the heater. So I think it was the heater. But that just shows how they all are. And Hannah looks like Allie. She acts like Allie. Um, and I feel like I'm, re-raising Allie with Hannah. But every kid is different. Every kid has different quirks, and it doesn't make them bad or it doesn't make it wrong. But you have to see your kids as unique. Be available to talk to them. It's constant talking with kids, and make sure that they know that you're there to talk to them. Establish boundaries in the way that you want them to talk to you. And, don't necessarily let them walk all over you, let them sass you, etc. But I know every house is going to be different when it comes to this. Remember the way that you talk to them becomes a voice in their head that they're going to continue to remember. And then have rules for what is said, in what way, exhibit that behavior for them. Remember, more is caught than taught with children. So how you respond to situations is often how they're going to respond to situations. How you talk to the person on the phone, even if they're an annoying salesperson, is often how they're going to respond. If you bully people in your life, they're going to bully people. If you look down and talk down to people, they're going to be condescending and talk down to people. If you cuss at people constantly, they're going to cuss at people constantly. So, however way you live your life is how they're going to live their life, usually in a more excessive way, because kids tend to do in excess what we do in moderation. So, but communication with kids, just keep those communication lines open. Let them know you're available to talk to them whenever they need you. Put down what you're doing to talk to them. Talk to them about everything. We're very open in our house. We talk about lots of stuff, everything. Nothing's really off limits. It's a house full of 6 girls. So we're very open, even with stuff when it comes to regarding what's going on every month with, every girl. And that's just kind of the way we do things. I don't want anything to be taboo. I want my kids to be able to talk to me about whatever they need to talk about. So, yeah, we're pretty open about stuff. So what about our marriage tips when it comes to communication with our marriage? Well, remember, you can approach your husband in a way that's not rude or demeaning. You don't need to put him down. You don't need to cut him down. I've often seen wives treat their husbands in a completely demeaning, horrible way. They treat them worse than they would talk to a stranger. And I think that's really sad. You shouldn't talk to your husband in a way you wouldn't talk to a complete stranger. If you wouldn't use obscenities or curse or yell or put down a stranger, why would you do that to the person that you're supposed to be closest to? He needs to hear how much you love, respect him, admire him. We need to build our husbands up. It's not just the women that need to be romanced. I firmly believe that men often respond much the way that children do, much the way we all do. I mean, we all kind of respond to how we're treated, right? Men will respond very nice to nice words, sweet words, kind words, just like our children will as well. I often think of my children, especially, and that this can go for husbands too, but my children is this like tender, delicate flower that's like, and when they first start out, there's this little tiny green shoot, and they grow. As they grow, they start blooming. And our words oftentimes that come out of the watering can either be like pure water that make them grow bigger and stronger, or our words can be like poison that will make them wilt and die and shrivel up. And our tongue has a lot of power in it. And our tongue has the power to build someone up or tear someone down. So when it comes to my kids, I often try to keep that mental picture in my head of just my words in a watering can. or even with my husband? Am I, you know, showering him with kind words, loving words, respectful words? Or am I just like showering him with all this poison from my tongue? Because the tongue, if we can control our tongue, we can control our entire body. Oftentimes, if we can control our tongue, we can control our emotions. If we can control our tongue, we can control our appetites when it comes to food and just giving into, lustful things. Our tongue has a lot of power. So, with our marriage, our husbands do need to hear how much we love, respect, and admire him. Don't mock him, especially to your kids. I don't even make jokes about my husband, like degrading things like, I don't know, he's such a mama's boy, or he's like a big kid. I have to constantly pick up after him, stuff like that. If I put down or demean my husband, especially in front of my kids, they're going to pick up on that. They're going to pick up on that. And then they're going to treat him the same way. Just like if a husband is constantly putting down his wife and constantly belittling his wife, the kids are also going to pick up on that. And then they might do that to mom as well. So, however you treat your husband is oftentimes how your kids view him, and however the husband treats the wife is oftentimes how um, the kids the kids view her as well. So if the husband is very disrespectful to the wife, the kids are going to pick up on that. If the wife is very disrespectful to the husband, the kids are going to pick up on that. So more is caught than taught. I often get this question: what do I do if my husband is a jerk? We've had some doozy posts in the Gentle Led Sisters group lately. And it makes me feel bad because I can't imagine being in this position where my husband treats me this way. I'm going to say I'm a very blessed woman. I know I am. Some people would say you just got lucky. I don't think luck has anything to do with it. I do think you have to be very choosy in who you pick as a life partner. Um, I could not have married someone that belittled me and put me down and talked down to me. And oftentimes these are things that you can see in the dating relationship, which is why it's good to really know someone before you say I do, because as Christians, as Baptists, as IFB, we do believe in the sanctity of marriage. We do believe that marriage is for life. However, I do think the church has failed in this area when it comes to women, especially because oftentimes I feel we place the institution of marriage above that of the person themselves. So oftentimes the advice is given to women who are staying in abusive relationships that you just need to grin and bear it. This is what you chose, basically tough luck. Well, men can hide their true colors just as women can. And narcissists especially are incredibly good at hiding who they are. And so oftentimes their mask does not start slipping until after marriage. And then once it slips, then there's no use in him keeping that facade up. And then that's when everything is unleashed. So I don't ascribe to this whole philosophy of tough luck, loser. You chose this person. You have to stay in this marriage where this husband is hitting you. I've often encouraged women to get help if they are in abusive situations. I will continue to do so. I will never condone abuse in any way. That being said, someone being a jerk to you doesn't necessarily make them abusive. It just means that they're a jerk. And what do you do if your husband is a jerk? Number one, you need to start praying. See if and gently entreat him if he would be open to talking to your pastor. I'm assuming hopefully he's going to church. Hopefully he's in church. This is why it's so important to be in a local church and have a relationship with your pastor and his wife, because oftentimes they are going to be the ones that help you out in difficult situations. They are going to be the ones who counsel you. They're going to be the ones who hold your hand through dark valleys. They're going to be the ones who are the only ones that know what's going on in your life. And they're not going to tell other people about it. If you have a good pastor and a good pastor's wife, they're not going to go blabbing your problems to the whole world or to the internet or to even their family. There's oftentimes, my husband and I counsel many people, and what is said in this office stays in this office. My kids don't know. We don't talk about it at home in front of them. Um, if my husband and I are there, stays with us and the couple. No one else knows of those problems. And it's kind of like a doctor-patient confidentiality thing. I think just as pastors and pastors' wives, that there are some things that you need to, I'm not talking about abusive situations, because if there is any type of abuse going on, we are mandated reporters and we do need to go to the police with that. And there are times that we have called police in different situations. But I'm talking about just, other stuff going on that's not illegal or anything like that, but it's something that has a detrimental effect on the marriage or a detrimental effect on that person. Um, it stays in-house basically. So if you have one that's not a great person, that doesn't have very many ethics or morals, they will blab everything about your private situation to the whole world. And that's a shame. But if your husband is a jerk, if he's going to church and he has a relationship with your pastor, just come to him and say, this is really affecting our marriage. I want a good marriage. I love you. I respect you. I want a good marriage, but this is really hurting me. Would there be any chance that you'd be open for counseling with pastor, seeing what he says? Oftentimes not. Men have a lot of pride, and usually going to the pastor is a last ditch effort in saving the marriage. Usually there's years and years and years of problems building up to that. And by the time the pastor does have a chance to help, they probably should have ideally come to him years before, but they didn't. And now you're at like this all-time pressure high of just problems that have been building for years and years and years. So pastors are not miracle workers. That's why if there is an issue, it is good to go to your pastor before it gets real big, I guess, and maybe he can help, guide you through the next steps that need to be taken to eliminate that sin in your life. But if there is a sin such as pornography, adultery, um, any type of hidden sin like that, pray that God will reveal it and that your husband would be open to change on that. A lot of men do want a good marriage, and they don't want a broken home. They don't want to divorce you and have their children, shared custody. A lot of men are open to reconciliation. And if that's the case, then, definitely try to follow that. But um, obviously have boundaries too, because I don't know how to put that, so I'll just go on. But if there is a sin, pray that God will reveal it and that he would be open to change that. And then remember, when it comes to um anything, the principles in the Bible are true, especially in Proverbs where it talks about the tongue, and a soft answer does have a way of turning away a wrath. Try not to exchange fire for fire. Try to be the bigger person. Um I found oftentimes in life arguments, even silly arguments on Facebook or online, can be stopped with just a soft answer. I know it's hard, especially when you're in the moment. It's very hard, but if it comes to wanting to return fire for fire, maybe that's a good opportunity. Tell yourself, I'm going to count to 10, I'm going to walk away, you know. And it's hard to be the bigger person all the time, but train yourself to give a soft answer. Train yourself to refrain from yelling. Train yourself to refrain from um, exchanging fire for fire. We exhibit to our kids how to communicate if there are problems, things that need to be worked out. My husband and I are either we're showing our kids a good relationship or we're showing our kids how a toxic relationship works. And they're going to carry that into relationships in their life. It's either going to make them scared to be in relationships or it's going to make them want a relationship because my mom and dad had an awesome marriage. That's what I want. Marriage is wonderful. Marriage is great, whatever. So we exhibit to our kids how to communicate if there are problems. And then lastly, how do we apply these tips for communication to our friendships? Just remember, to have friends, you must show yourself to be friendly. You're never going to make new friends by, never socializing with people, never trying to I like to learn people's story. I like to see what makes them tick. Okay, that's just part of my personality. I like to kind of analyze them, not in a judgmental way, but I like to figure them out. So I don't have a lot of time for small talk. Oh, look at the weather. It's so cold. That's just not me. I would rather just get to the nitty-gritty of things. Tell me how you were raised. Tell me about your parents. Tell me how you and your husband met. Tell me, whatever. I like to figure out a person's story. And oftentimes a person's story starts with their childhood. How were they raised? Were they raised in a Christian environment? Were they raised in an environment where it was very bad or it was very toxic? Were they yelled at? Were they screamed at? Were they cussed out? Did they have to fend for themselves? Were they the oldest and they had to take care of their siblings a lot? What makes them ticked? Were they homeschooled? Did they go to public school? Did they go to a Christian school? Because oftentimes that shapes who you are as well. So I like to get to the root of who someone is and why they are the way that they are. That's just really intriguing to me. Communication builds friendships. Talking to people builds friendships. Getting to know about them builds friendships. Respect boundaries with your friends. No is no and don't push. And I learned this a long time ago. I have the tendency to just want people to see my way, of things. Well, all of my best friends, with the exception of Amanda and I, are very similar in a lot of ways. But all of my best friends throughout my childhood and my adult life have been completely opposite of me. And that even comes to where I'm extroverted and I adopt an introvert. Amanda's really my only friend who's also an extrovert. But I've often said that all of my friends, my best friends, I came along and I just adopted them. Whether or not they had a choice in it, I adopted them because that's what I do. I find an introvert, I'm really drawn to that introvert, and I adopt them. But I have learned that when they say no, that means no. I've tried to get Erica to travel with me before. She's not comfortable with going on planes. And I've had to accept that. And so sometimes I'll put it out there and she'll be like, is it flying or driving? Because I've tried to get her to come to Florida every year for the pastor's wife retreat and she won't. And I'm like, it's flying. And she's like, no. And I've just learned not to push it. Respect their no's. If they don't want it, don't push it. Realize the difference in personalities. This has helped me so much to figure out my friends' love language. Are gifts important to them? Well, if gifts are important to them, I'm going to try to put a lot more thought into the gift that I give them for Christmas, Or for me, quality time is important to me. That's my love language. And so I love it when my friends come and visit me. I love visiting my friends. So that's just kind of how it is with me. And we all have different love languages. We all have different ways that we feel love. So be forgiving in friendships. Try not to hold grudges. Don't remember something that they said, 5 years ago. And then two, I think for part of forgiving is just realizing that sometimes our friends are in different seasons than we are. I've been very blessed to have friends that have always realized, especially when I'm in the postpartum stage, I'm going to be a little bit more sensitive. And so they need to tread a little bit more lightly around me. When I'm not pregnant, I'm not nursing, or I'm not in postpartum, I'm very even killed. But when I'm pregnant or postpartum or nursing, I'm a lot more emotional. I guess probably not like most women, because I still don't cry very often. I think more my emotion would be anger. I just would maybe get angry easier. When I'm not any of those things in the season I'm at now, I'm not nursing, I'm not pregnant, I'm not postpartum. Hannah's 4 now. My emotions are very even. So I'm not very offendable. So just realize though, if you have a pregnant friend, if you have a newly postpartum friend, if you have a nursing friend, realize they're going to be a little bit more sensitive. You need to be handle them with kid gloves because our emotions are very frazzled during those times. And our husbands need to realize this. Our friends need to realize this. It's not an excuse to treat others badly, but it is just a caution for our family and friends to just treat us a little more gently. So, friendships take years to build, and don't be quick to burn bridges. It takes a lot for me to burn bridges. And I can honestly say that any of my close friends that maybe we went down different paths and we don't really talk as much now, if they called me or texted me tomorrow needing help, I would offer them my help. I would do everything in my power to help them. Um, I'm not someone who takes friendships lightly, and it's very difficult for me to sever friendships. And so I also have picked up friendships, maybe that we had a lull or we went down different paths for like 3 years, but then we kind of met back up on the same path. Um, I've picked right up where we left off and no ill feelings, because I understand that things happen, miscommunication happens, and I'm fine with letting bygones be gone. I'm fine with letting things go. So, friendships are important to me. And then I just also lastly don't take friendships for granted. There have been different seasons in my life where I've needed different friendships, and they've helped me through whatever rough patch I'm going through. And I do believe that God puts different friends and different people in your life at different times and different seasons. I've seen that even in our church. People come and go, but there have been some that have stuck with us since day one, and I don't take that for granted. There have been some that have come and gone and come and gone and come and gone. And you just have to learn to forgive whatever thing made them leave and not hold it over their heads when they come back, and be forgiving and realize Christ forgives us over and over and over again. And we need to do the same for other people. So, in whatever way we want to be treated, we need to treat other people the same way. We need to forgive other people. We need to, especially if they ask for forgiveness. Obviously, you can't you don't have to be bitter, but if someone doesn't ask for forgiveness, you can't just like grant them forgiveness for something that hasn't been asked. But as a person, you can move on. You don't have to dwell on it. You don't have to become bitter. You don't have to seek vengeance, basically, because you seeking vengeance and you being bitter is going to hurt you more than them. And then oftentimes when vengeance comes, it doesn't even feel that good. So oftentimes it's very different. Poetic justice is oftentimes very different than we imagined it. So anyways, I am going to end there. I hope this was a help in some way. If you want any topics for the holidays, definitely leave them down below. I am very busy living my life right now. And Gently Led Sisters, while it is a ministry of mine, it is low on the priority list. And I love all of you. And so that's why I'm going to continue doing a live, because especially I know that there are some who have reached out to me and they thank me for the show and everything. For you, I do it. I continue it, but it is low on the priority list. Life is very full right now. It's very blessed. I'm living the dream. I literally told my husband last week, I looked at him and I said, literally every dream of mine has come true. And he joked and said, well, why couldn't you have wished for $1 million? I think I might have told this last week. I can't remember. I'm getting Alzheimer's now. But I said, money has never been high on the priority list for me. And it hasn't. Even as a little kid, money was not high on the priority list for me. So life is very full and it's very busy, but this is just kind of a side thing. So thanks for hanging in there for almost 7 years with me. Here's to another 7 years. Life looks very different from year to year as far as kids getting married, hopefully grandkids soon, if the Lord blesses. So I'm very excited for the next seasons of life. And if you have any topic suggestions for the holidays, leave them down below. I'll try to get to them. But we will see you next Monday. I hope you all have a wonderful week. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. So we will see you next week.